Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the world champion Zerg. In the red, we have Rogue, facing off against one of the best Protoss of all time. In the blue, Mauer, the wall, it's ShoWTimE. In a best of 5 Protoss versus Zerg showdown as part of Forty's $5,000 Team Liquid map contest tournament. And before we get started, incredible, you could smash that like button or maybe even subscribe. And we got the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,845 likes on this video and this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. Then the first pro, being chased down by the Zerglings, slaps down a pylon on location, and a Zealot in this economy? Things escalating very quickly as the third base has been blocked and the lives of the Zerglings at risk as a Zealot and now an Adept rallied across the map. Rogue, without the early scout, maybe a bit ambitious taking the third. We're on a 4-player map, Fear and Faith. And while there might be worker tubes, just like the internet, connecting both of the bases to scout, yeah, ShoWTimE saw everything early. Rogue, on the other hand, just now getting his Overlord to the natural. Part of the risk of 4-player maps is you might just not get the information early. And I don't believe Rogue was... Oh, he escapes into the tube! Workers only, employees only. And, well... Oh, you can turn around. I've never seen anyone turn around. Now, you could just stop. I don't know why I thought you couldn't. Feels weird, but Rogue has always been one to pioneer new strategies, whether it's mass Overlord changeling, spine crawler rush, or just kind of sitting around in a tube, just like you. Did I mention YouTube? Like and subscribe. Jimmy, we're gonna work on that. I don't. 3 drones dead though. The third base just now started. Looks like the worker finally emerged and managed to find a hatchery, but it is in a precarious position, not only because it's so late in the game, relatively. It's also closer towards ShoWTimE's base. And ShoWTimE has managed to... Just a visual glitch there. Looked like the Oracle was... Enough about tubes. For now. But 2 Adepts in the natural. And the Spore Crawler isn't done. Which means the Workers gonna get it from both sides. Zerglings will hold the Adepts in place, and the Queens will politely yet firmly discourage the Oracle from any further activities, as the knitting needles are able to pierce through the shields and almost take the Oracle down outright. So ShoWTimE biting off maybe a little more than he could metaphorically chew, as Rogue with plenty to defend, and now the third base finishing up. The third for ShoWTimE, not particularly quick. A bit more of a conservative timing. But then again, usually you don't get nicknamed the Wall because of your reckless aggression. And even though there was that early Zealot and the ability to block the base, it looks like ShoWTimE pulling back into a more standard, a more pragmatic playstyle. With a Twilight Council, a Forge, and some more gateways on the way alongside the third. And with the Oracles above, there's really no possibility of delaying or destroying that third base. Unless the Queens are willing to take a stroll across the map. Which I don't think is out of the question, but is certainly quite a commitment that maybe they're unwilling to make at this stage. Oracle's still just looking around, but the Queens, revelated, right at the edge of the tube. Oracle, of course, keeping track of them, and now the macro phase begins. As the early game shenanigans, the flirtation of the will they kill all the drones of the Zerg, or won't they, is most of it. As ShoWTimE opting for Blink and +1, the Stalkers and the Oracles. The most efficient combo, but relatively fragile, just like the emotions of most players balance winding in the comments, which a needless dig, but it felt appropriate at the time. The Queens and the Zerglings out in front, but the Oracles, not only do they provide the potential support of the Pulsar beams, but the stasis wards prevent the Zerglings in large numbers from getting too close. So having even 2 Oracles is sometimes enough to keep the Zerglings at bay. Now, what? Is this the same Zealot from earlier? Well, he hasn't lost one. There's just a Zealot chilling in the fort. I was told there would be glorious battle. The real battle is with your patience. I'm charging extra. I don't... Not yet. A single stalker? Not even... Oh, and a hard one. The Zergling's able to trickle out as the Stalker's unable to body block, but most of the Zerglings taken down. 27 Zerglings and not a single Protoss unit will be traded away. The one Stalker very uncomfortable with the situation. Overseer, gonna take a look around, and when it gets into the main base, assuming the Stalkers don't snipe it off, it'll see the most stock standard progression. We've got 5 more gates, Storm, as well as Charge, and a robotics facility. ShoWTimE, defining the playbook in Protoss versus Zerg here. Whereas Rogue, he's got some Hydras on the way. A strong... Oh no, he didn't expect the high ground. Even more stasis. The breadcrumbs across the map. ShoWTimE boldly expanding forward. But he says, stop right there, criminal scum. The stasis wards. More than enough to stop over half of the Zerg army. But the problem is, he has half the army supply. And the numbers don't lie. They potentially spell disaster for ShoWTimE if the wall cannot... Yet again, another one. But Storm is 10 seconds out. And with it, maybe the ability to weather this attack. The Hydras and Lings trickling through. The Nexus shield stripped away. Storm is now done. One thrown out. Tries to target. Gets one Templar. The Nexus is gone. He managed to cancel it. But ShoWTimE maybe overestimating his power. And possibly suffering from success. The Stasis Wards trapped so many of the units, it effectively protected them from Storm. As well as funneling the Protoss into a more manageable situation. The Overlord... Calm down. Overlord just a few seconds late in creeping this base. ShoWTimE will move up. He's actually supply blocked. Meanwhile, a Lurker Den and an infestation pit on the way as Rogue climbing up the tech tree, trying to match the literal energy that ShoWTimE's bringing to the table with the Templar. And always so good about maintaining those key units. He's kept his oracles alive despite the early tribulations. He's kept his Templar intact, and the only one he lost had already casted Storm. So Rogue, so far, he's not lost too much. 6 Hydras. And he's finally building it. What? Dropper Lords on the way. And while those units can't take the tubes, much to their dismay, this is certainly one of the other ways to play. And I don't know whether it's going to be divide and conquer. That's the intent. And ShoWTimE with absolutely no vision. He's clearly expecting some sort of attack near the natural, but the main base is wide open. The fleet beacon has begun, and the drop as well. And Rogue trying to cover this with an attack to the north. The stasis doesn't quite... Actually gets the trigger at the last second. And the Hydras and Lings are still an existential threat. There's another stasis. Catches it. But here we go. The drop into the main. There's enough energy for a recall. He's kept enough units back at home. The Hydras and Lings trying to fight. The drop all over everything. The Zealots are warped in. But the Templar are in position, and the Storms will psionically rip them apart. Meanwhile, Charge Lots on the other side. Rogue is doing a lot of damage. He's targeting the fleet beacon. Which will... Does he get the cancel? Yes, at the last second he was paying attention. The charge lots will be cleaned up, but the drop will eventually be dealt with. The fleet beacon is delayed. But at what cost? He lost so many Hydras, so many Lings. But there is a hive on the way behind. He kept his 5th base. It's at half HP, so a bit of a liability. But the most important part is it's there. We're all tied up at 75 workers apiece. The creep is encroaching on the doorstep of the base, and ShoWTimE going to move to clear it out. Another fleet beacon, another Stargate on the way. The Dropper Lords on their way back as they flew all the way through. The Stalkers will make them pay quite a painful toll. But Rogue will use this opportunity to move into position at the bottom of the natural. The Overlords, a magnet of distraction for those less intellectually inclined, I've heard. But the juicy Overlords were such a plump choice. Okay, I'm done. That, well, even the Protoss seem to like them thick. Unfortunately now, the difficulty of the situation is starting to dawn on ShoWTimE as he moved he may have thought they refilled somehow. Just the reflex, because you can't tell what's in the Dropper Lord. You just see the look of it. And now, finally, Rogue was able to bait and switch him out of position. The Hive tech is kicking in. ShoWTimE is maxed out. But this is a very difficult position to dislodge cost-effectively. But does he need to do so cost-effectively is the question. Well, Lurker range just finished, making it significantly more difficult. But ShoWTimE, with his patience, technically right now, the Lurkers aren't actually threatening anything. One is slowly working its way through the Cyber Core, but the Hydra's in the main. He has to know. Rogue is moving forward perfectly. The timing, ShoWTimE knew this was happening, but still wasn't quite in position to deal with it. The sheer amount of Archons with an overwhelming level of power. The Lurkers, though, starting to slice through. Cyber Core eviscerated. The Templar, 2 Templar with energy for Storm ripped apart before they could do anything. Charge lots on the other side. Some Stalkers getting distracted by the Overlords, whereas the Zealots have no such capability. Mothership. He's trying to wait for the Mothership, but he's losing more and more as the Lurkers have ripped down the wall to the front. And Hydra's almost able to take out the first Tempest. The charge lots are dealt with. The reinforcements for Rogue are enough. But he doesn't have anything in the bank. If this gets cleaned up, there's nothing to follow it. But right now, sweeping it away seems almost impossible. How many Templar left? 5 Templar on either side. The Mothership. There are 3 Overseers here, but if they get taken out, active cloaking could be enough. And 3 Overseers, he's not sniping them. Hydra lunge, goes forward. There's precious few units underneath. ShoWTimE, if he doesn't go soon, there's no reason to go at all. He decides to go forward. The Natural's still holding on. But the Archons go right into the concave of Lurkers and get sliced apart accordingly. There were more than enough to deal with this. Rogue 150 to 120 supply. The Mothership, but the Hydra count is almost non-existent. The Mothership itself with 11 kills and counting, and most of those on Hydras and now Lurkers, and ShoWTimE with the first wave gets whittled down. But with the second wave, it's enough to knock Rogue out. And the supplies are 116 to 11-1. Which, how does Rogue do this with the changelings? Hey guys, have we tried just crashing our capital ships into the ground? I've heard that worked before. Just saying, just asking questions. But Rogue's so good with the changelings, both en masse and individually. It finally gets figured out, but the creep is still extending all the way across. But the economy. Rogue didn't actually kill that many probes. So far this game, he's taken out 39, but ShoWTimE loses a couple more to the constant high ground harass. But Rogue with only a marginal worker lead, and his army is Hydras and Lings for the most part. He's building some Corruptors. Only a few Lurkers remain. ShoWTimE, again, you don't get nicknamed the Wall for your constant aggression. And even though right now, he can't know for sure that Rogue is so incredibly broke. But if he had gone forward, like some other Protoss who are significantly less defensive, it may have been a game-winning position. Very simply, he has the army to potentially win. A Mothership and any amount of Templar can... But he's giving Rogue the time to rebuild. Which, sometimes prioritizing the core of your army, making sure you have the right one, is better. But from our perspective, seeing that Rogue was almost completely wiped from the field and he spent everything in getting that attack done. Well, now he's retaken the initiative. ShoWTimE has built up to 6 Tempests, the Mothership as well. There are some Overseers with this, and Observers to help clear up the Lurkers, but a line of Lurkers and the probes slaughtered on the high ground, or from the high ground. The Corruptor's on top of everything. He's storming his own Tempests, but the Time Warp and the Storms are much more effective against the Corruptors with significantly less HP, and they get wiped out of the sky. And ShoWTimE will maintain air control and clear out the Lurkers, though it's going to cost him his last 2 Immortals. Getting a bit lackadaisical at the last moment, and there's no detection. Oh no. There's only a single Observer, 18 probes dead. And that's the real victory here. As Rogue again, he's lost 24 Lurkers, 25, 62 Hydras. He lost all his Corruptors. But the extra few seconds and the extra units he lost to those last few Lurkers, That tilted the scales. And ShoWTimE has finally decided enough's enough. He does have recall available. He still has a very strong core army. And this is that army. Well, the Zerglings just continue going through his adrenal glands. 31 probes. That includes the lurkers earlier. But ShoWTimE's gone from a similar position economically to dramatically behind. 76 to 51. How many? There are 11 Corruptors and 1 Hydra. That's the emptier. 6 Queens as well. Caught on the front line. Definitely needs to bring them up. And Brenda! What? You know the pathfinding doesn't work like this. I don't... Remember when we could fly? Oh, shut up, Susan. I don't... Sorry, I blacked out from... But Rogue does bring the Queens around. And they may be required, as he has a tenuous amount of Corruptors. 11 Corruptors with no upgrades. Now, ShoWTimE doesn't have them either. But the Tempests have just high alpha damage. They're able to hit so hard. And of course, the Storms are a massive threat as well. So if you don't have flyer attack, it becomes a lot harder to actually deal with this. Again, the Lurker on the high ground for the umpteenth time. Gets some probe kills, denies some mining, and compounds the economic league that Rogue has been slowly but surely... This base that was chopped up partially by the charge lots earlier is still at about the same HP. There's... All of the Zealots here are traitors. There is not a single actual Zealot. Yeah, we got him, guys. One Changeling will die of old age. And more Changelings coming in. Rogue is, like... ShoWTimE clearly looking the other way. He should know at this point. ShoWTimE has 16 Zealots, and they're all to the north. He's going to expand to the top right corner. And this is such an odd scenario, because neither player has the economy to really keep this up. Though Rogue is definitely on the better end of it. But he doesn't have the economy to just throw away his army and rebuild, like a 300 supply Zerg. The thing is, there's no detection. The observers have to be babysit like a particularly suicidal toddler, which is an achievement. There are no oracles because they'll easily get knocked out of the sky, and there's precious little time on the stargates. But Rogue has managed to remax out. Wow, over 50,000 resources. 60,000. Yes, in less than 20 minutes. And both these... The Lurkers find another angle. They dive right through. And the wall seems to have a lot of gaps. ShoWTimE, similar army supply. But Rogue is doing what he can to make sure he can never bring it to bear. And, well, the Observer's here. But if he snipes it off the... There's a second Observer. And Rogue again gets cleared from the field. 10 more Corruptors are the choice. A full Congress of Corruptors in the sky, but they may be dragging some of the budget from the ground army. There are 10 Lurkers, 11 Hydras. But he's up against, well, more Lurkers. ShoWTimE? Does he recall? Does he go back? Or does he split his army? He's gonna try to split, and the charge lots will catch some of the drones transferring. And again, the Cyber Crow will be taken out of the same location, this time seconds before +1 air weapons is done. Though Rogue, this is not enough Lurkers to really hold much of a position at all. The active cloaking. There's only a single... Oh, the Observer! The Observer's so important! But the Overseer's even more so, and they weren't quite in position. The Lurkers just get melted by the storms. The Corruptor's able to take out many of the Tempests, though. How many Tempests remain? 1. The Tempest remains. And ShoWTimE down to 39 probes. He's got that top right corner base. The charge lots have taken out the expansion for Rogue. The base is under fire, and it's still so close because this army's so hard to deal with, but he's diving onto the creep. The Lurker's underneath. Observer in position. Storm's mothership finally knocked out of the sky. The last Observer was taken down, and what he can't see, he can't kill, with a big asterisk of Storms existing. The Corruptors now, their only purpose to take out this one Tempest, but he's literally cornered. Is it time for recall? Now or never? He gets 1 Templar. A big chunk of the army escapes. And what's left? I feel like we've been asking this after every single fight. But, it's a good question. It's important. It's a strategy. Well, for Rogue, 4 Lurkers, 14 Corruptors. So he has 78 army supply, but 28 of it is in Corruptors. And they're all in Autumn colors, which means it's a big risk to commit to anything. The Changelings are mixing in with the army. So the real issue here is detection. Keeping the Observers alive against this many Corruptors. He has nothing left to fight the Lurkers except for Storm, which is... Oh, wait. Another Observer. But ShoWTimE is just kind of bleeding out on the field. Both sides have left it all there. But Rogue, I feel like he dragged this game into chaos, and he may be able to beat ShoWTimE with experience. A new map pool here in the Team Liquid map contest. But Rogue found an angle with those Lurkers on the high ground for the 17th time this game. And it might be the last. ShoWTimE never found the timing to show Rogue an army that he couldn't beat. And now Rogue may be the one who has won. 25 probes. It's still Immortal Archon. One Immortal with 2 HP and 17 kills. 0 fucks. Immortal blasting through. And the Lurkers are still not the be-all end-all. Though, one of them in that fateful spot. There's detection from the cannon, but it's not quite enough. More Lurkers popping out. Again detected. The Immortal... he just can't see them. And then he can't kill them. Everything dies. The Immortal dies. And ShoWTimE dies. And Rogue survives game number 1. What a hectic, topsy-turvy roller coaster. Rogue loses 54 Lurkers. 420 Zerglings as he blazes his way into a victory in game number 1. Well, such a different style, and against most players, ShoWTimE's kind of sit back and let them come to me. The wall is usually good enough. Sometimes better. But Rogue is willing to take those risks with no hesitation. He's willing to send out half of his army supply. And if he ever sends it to the wrong direction, if he's just out of position, okay, enough pontificate. Let's wrap this thought process up, because we're going to have a new one momentarily. If he's ever out of position, if he ever just loses an army without gaining position with another one, he just loses the game. Like, ShoWTimE walks across the map after a decisive victory, and he loses, because he can't beat the army that ShoWTimE has. He needs to have another option. And speaking of other options, welcome to Game 2 on Verdant Temple. Rogue with a 12 pool. So, we just had a full-on knockdown, drag-out macro game. This is something... Is this a proxy? There's a worker-only path. This is another... I feel like Rogue may have done a little bit more research than ShoWTimE on these maps. The 12 pull on the way. ShoWTimE showing no indication. There's no gas, which is a bit of a giveaway. A hatchery. Crouching drone, hidden hatchery. And does he see it from the... I don't think probes see it when they come down the ramp, especially if they're going to the wall. Oh, the call is coming from inside the house. Oh, no. The Zerglings are coming across. ShoWTimE has to be thinking, where's the hatch? Like, he would have expanded by now. With no gas, you still have enough money to expand. There's no reason. But the Zerglings are knocking on the door. A Zealot is on the way. Where's he going to pop it out? Behind the wall off. And honestly, against just slow lanes, is a solid wall. To keep the Zerglings out. That's been a strategy for, well, what you got? No. That is not what keeping the Zerglings out usually looks like, as the Zerglings are now inside the base, and there is no vision. I think if he went to the other side, like, if for some reason he was scouting that way, just on the other side of the ramp, but Rogue, he had to have worked this out at some point. The Zealot will spot the hatchery, and the alarm bells are going off. The hatchery is inside the base already. The wall is obsolete. The Zerglings will get cleaned up, but more of them rallied across. Rogue has no intentions of going to a 20-plus minute game here. And, well, the distance, the chasm between his main base and his production has now become a, well, the infestation has taken root. And he's building drones! It's a spine crawler rush! I've arrived! And I'm here to take my revenge! Brenda, I don't... Revenge! Okay. So, that... Maybe it's not the time to go back to the mineral line. The Adepts will take out a second, but... So the creep tumor, the fact he invested in a creep tumor at all is suspicious. He hasn't yet seen the spine. He's about to. And the backbone of the attack will continue. The gateway is being ripped apart by the Zerglings at the front. A shield battery could help hold the line, reshields the gate, but the Zerglings will drain it quickly. Adepts not so great against queens, nor spine crawlers, which is a weird but fun fact, unless you're Protoss. But you know what? Protoss having less fun has been the main goal of, like, over 50% of the player base for a long while. So, why should they have all the fun? Meanwhile, the queens! The queens can body block, and the creep tumor finished. And again, the lack of detection is going to be the defining characteristic. The inability to stop the creep from encroaching in the most cinematic fashion. As it continues forward, the queen escapes. There's not enough energy for transfusing the other. She'll heal slowly. The spine crawler is about to be in range of the Nexus. And still, those tentacles, the impaler tentacles, that's the name of the attack, all right? I'm not being weird. Stop making it weird. The Zerglings still working their way through the door. Another shield battery torn down. The pylons themselves. And the queen and the spine crawlers, and another one's on the way. A stalker managed to get its way out. There's an adept walled in, which is best case scenario, and it won't last forever. The cyber core, the queens, a transfuse, patting each other on the back. And they continue forward. The queens, the wall is almost gone. The cyber core, the 4th or 5th cyber core in this series in just 1.5 games. Though that might be underestimating the stage of this one. The Zerglings, the spine crawler badly bruised, but the queen's rebuilding energy. Or regrowing it, or regenerating. That was the one. Spine crawler. And not target firing the stalker, but the shield batteries almost drained of energy themselves. One spine is taken down, but 2 more have taken root. And at this stage, even if he takes down 1 more, those spines are going to be done by the time the army is ready to deal with them. And he can move forward. A transfer. What a save! What a save! And the Zerglings out in front. And the spine crawler rush. Rogue giving ShoWTimE total whiplash in game number 2. Hits him with the full macro lurker plays. And then he hits him with the impaler tentacles. And right now, ShoWTimE, well, the wall came together and was obsolete by the time it finished. The spine crawlers continued through, the Overlord tanking some hits. And GG! Rogue! With 2 in a row. The spine crawlers slamming into the Nexus. And ShoWTimE, if he had known about the hatch, that looks completely different. The fact he was able to hold so long, even with the hatchery being a complete surprise. But the early spawning pool, and then the worker-only path hatchery. Zerg finally taking some advantage of those same sort of situations. And, well, Game 3 at Eternity's Edge. First, like and subscribe for existential dread. And now Rogue 2-0. This Zerg versus Protoss has recently been by far his worst matchup. As well, I think a lot of Zergs can relate to that. up to and including the finisher. But, and to be fair, a lot of this has revolved around catching ShoWTimE entirely and utterly off guard. Just fully bamboozled in ways that you give these maps a month and it's unlikely to happen. Which is why I'm of the opinion we should have like 15 maps in the pool and only give them like 3 vetoes and then you just pick from the rest. But I'm sorry, we want the same 4 minutes of gameplay every single time that I could literally cast with my eyes closed. Have I yet shouted out to my blind viewers? Which you kind of have to. But the one thing I did actually, a meta commentary, if you would. And you have no choice unless you pause or leave the video, but I noticed, this has nothing to do with the game, by the way. We're doing that 4 minutes, it looks like, of standard. And this map is one of the most standard. There's a contested gold. I believe there's a rich Vespine over to the north, but the first 3-4 bases are your more typical fare. So, I noticed, not to my surprise, but delight. I'll go with delight. Almost a third of you, by watch time at least, maybe not by people, by the sheer amount, are watching on TV of some sort. So, I know it's probably super annoying to leave comments, though if you're watching on TV, you probably watch a lot longer. How you doing? Hey, everyone. Now, is Dad watching the weird StarCraft dude again? Do you know what's your favorite race? Do you think Protoss is unethical? Sorry. The question's for the children. But are there any annoyances or things on TV that I might not be considering because I don't even own one? But I was a little surprised that even more than on phones, and you guys have phones, but I can imagine it's not exactly an ideal scenario to be watching this more complicated game on your phone. Or maybe if you're on your phone, you just don't have the attention span, and that's kind of a more meta commentary on the socioeconomic policies of... Anyways, but... So, are there any obvious issues on TV that would make your experience a little bit better? And I'll take your silence as approval. Because I don't even know how you comment on TV. Imagine commenting on a remote. You can hook up a keyboard? What am I saying? I got a little distracted. But I think I got my point across. Just like the Adepts and the Zerglings got across the map. I guess when you put out over 1 hour videos, it's not surprising people watch them in a more cinematic experience. But I digress. And just like Rogue's drone count regresses, as 3 drones killed and both Adepts escape, the Zerglings cleaned up in the main. They will successfully scout exactly what they expected to, which is information in and of itself, but ShoWTimE not usually known for reinventing the wheel, but instead perfectly balancing it, and within German engineering tolerances. So, Oracle headed across, 3rd Nexus impending, and 3 Adepts now. The Shady Bunch ready to get some extra damage done. We'll see. 3. If he pulls the Queens out of position even for a couple seconds, that Oracle can wreak absolute havoc. And there's not enough Zerglings to actually deal with this, especially if he covers with the Oracle. Rogue has only had 36 drones. This is the hardest part of the early game for Zerg, is making the active decision to build Zerglings. Because every set of Zerglings is 1 less drone. But if you lose drones, that's also less drones. So the careful balance between building Zerglings to deal with the Adepts and actually building drones is a tightrope walk that routinely trips Zerg up and makes it very hard to find yourself in a similar economic... Oh my... Brenda, don't go in there! No, I can see we have the Overlord. Still! 4th base for Rogue. Well, he's gonna... Wow, even Moracles. The Triumvirate 3 oracles, 3 adepts. The queens and the zerglings should be enough. But, oh, the overlord sees this. This is a vision blocker. And I guess that's more adepts into the third. Missed a bit of targeting on the drones, but ends up getting 2 more. Meanwhile, the adepts threatening again. Where did they go? They're, oh my, wait, that, come on. Meanwhile, the moopies are appreciating art. A stasis on the high ground, and this is just getting... They're not leaving. The oracles and the adepts, but the adepts on a move command, which means they get surrounded, and most of them, well, they all eventually get killed rather quickly. So, ShoWTimE, keeping Rogue busy, but was it worth it? 5 adepts for 6 drones and 12 lings. He's got blank and +1 back at home, but Rogue took an exceedingly quick 4th base. Oh, the Spore Crawler was marginally out of position, which means 5 more drones are dead. ShoWTimE. The existence of 3 oracles makes it very hard to even contemplate attacking before Hydras, as your only options are accept that all your units will die if you do not win the game quickly, or bring the queens. And neither gives you a lot of long-term options. But the Hydra's done is on the way. Unfortunately, Blink is already completed. And with just Zerglings and queens, I mean, the numbers matter. The Zerglings, they get a shield battery on the other side, but the Oracles are going to join up with the Stalkers on the front line. +1 attack is about to complete for the Stalkers and importantly Zealots as well. Stasis creates more of a force field for the Protoss than helping out the Zerg, obviously. But 13 Hydras in production, but they have yet to be delivered. And another Stasis mid-fight. Blink is available. Queen's trying to move up. There are no melee attack upgrades here. The Oracle's lighting up and burning away half a dozen Zerglings. So far, 57 Zerglings dead. He's killed 1 Stalker. Of course, that's a little misrepresentation, as obviously many of the Zerglings died fighting the Adepts, but I digress. The Oracle's pretty low on the energy, but the Zealots are mixed in. And even without charge, honestly, it might be better without charge to an extent, as it helps them box out the Zerglings more effectively. Some Stasis wards to retreat to. The Templar recharged. Storm halfway done, but he's anticipating the need for it. And eventually the Hydras and Lings are gathering in such a number. He's got Overlord speed on the way, which has some implications. 3 Dropper Lords, making it much more clear what those implications are. And the Revelation tracking the Zerglings towards the 4th base. ShoWTimE, slow and steady with the expanse, which is usually good, but against Rogue has not been as successful. At least in game number 1. Game number 2, we didn't get too many expands. I think we got 1, and it was the hatchery on the other side of the map. So, a wave of charge lots head north. ShoWTimE putting the cannons together to the south. Fleet Beacon is on the way. The beacon is lit as the Protoss call for maybe something a little bit more. A mass Zergling drop, and the main base is wide open with absolutely no vision. Hydra's getting chased down to the left flank, but ShoWTimE, his units are strung out across the map. And here we go. The massive drop in the main base. That's so many Zerglings, though they don't have any upgrades. Will he recall? He's fighting on the field. The Templar storms on the 4th base of Rogue. Reinforcements coming in, but the Zerglings are overwhelming the main. And the creep is helping out as well. More storms. Hydra's waiting through. Hatchery targeting. If he's going to recall, it's now. But the Hydras will take down most of the Templar. He did not recall to the main. He didn't have the energy. The Forge could be ripped apart. +3 attack. The Stargate itself and Rogue's drop is doing terrible. terrible damage. The Templar Archives, the Nexus, the entire tech tree, but it's not over yet. The third base is under attack. There's more Templar, but ShoWTimE, the wall is starting to hold. He's patching up the gaps. The Zerglings are pulled back into the Overlords. The Hydras are breaking against the wall of storms. The Oracles are still alive, and most of the Templar do survive. And the time for Rogue to retreat is nigh. And I don't think this game will end in a tie. The Overlords are still able to fly. The Templar Archives hung out to dry. But facing just the Zealots, I have to sigh. And now the Zerg's starting to cry as we see the sheer amount of supply and ShoWTimE. Well, $130 to $145. A mothership is on the way. The fleet beacon still intact. The main base was gutted, but so are almost all the Hydras. It's the economy. Before this, ShoWTimE had 10-15 more workers on 4 base. And with Storm, he's able to whittle down so much, and that's it! You might be like, well, Winter. It still seems like Rogue did a lot of damage. Yeah, he had to. And it cost him everything. ShoWTimE battles back. The wall holds. Despite having to retreat in some on some angles, he battened it down on the others. And we're not getting a clean sweep today, thankfully. ShoWTimE shows that given enough time, he can hold the line. Rogue put everything into that Hydra timing and came out without enough. These two quite evenly matched, it feels. Rogue got the better end of him when he was able to use the map against him on both games, really. But in a more that was the most standard map we played thus far, for better or worse. Just a simple fact. ShoWTimE feeling significantly more confident. Now we're going to Washout, which is on the standard side of things, and has been played in community tournaments for even longer than most of them. So ShoWTimE may have some more experience. I mean, we're in the playoffs of the Team Liquid map contest, which means they definitely played a lot of these. So there are 15 maps in the finals, and technically you only had to win like 8 games in 2 group stages to get through to here. So technically, and you could have technically played the same 2 or 3 maps in each series, which means there is no obligation to necessarily have played all of the maps before. And knowing pro gamers, many of them probably didn't. But Rogue clearly with some unique takes, and I love it. ShoWTimE with some predictable takes, which I love in very different ways. One's great for a fun time, and one is ShoWTimE. Sounded profound, right? Like and subscribe for more statements you can put on your Instagram or MySpace page. You remember MySpace? How's the back pain? I don't know. Game number 4. As Rogue, all of his hatcheries on his own side of the map. The early game shenanigans there. It is the constant struggle for Zerg. And needfully so. That's a word, right? Yeah, so's a word. Not that one. I don't. If Zerg wasn't under pressure early, then they just get 10-15 more drones. In Protoss, it's almost impossible before you get splash damage to deal with the swell of Hydras and Lings. Of course, once you get splash damage, it's heavily facilitated by energy recharge. If you're wondering why it feels like it's such a tough timing for Zerg, and that's my opinion as well, it's energy recharge existing. And being able to slap 50 energy every 45 seconds into, well, anything that uses energy. And almost all the things that use energy are good. To have more. That's going from no storm to some storm. It's going from the ability to light up the Oracle and attack for several seconds to casting Revelation and then attacking and still having enough energy left over for a stasis potentially. So It's a big difference at pretty much every stage of the game. And it's hard to gauge as Zerg exactly when you're going to be comfortable to attack. Which is why most players settle on those sort of Hydra timings and trying to find where the Protoss is weakest. Adept shading through. Oracle, of course. And this is restricted lair space. You can't be. You can't just. Ah! Well, it kept him busy. He only got one. That's one too many. Okay, Brenda. Don't patronize me. Did you say Patreon? Like in the description? Sorry. Oh, I blacked out for him. Twilight Council and Forge. Sorry. Forge. No Forge? Interesting. It actually is notable if players don't go for a Forge alongside the Twilight because that indicates quicker aggression, where you're focusing on hitting pretty much before something like +1 attack would kick in. And the Shady Bunch out front. Rogue. Up to 50 drones. ShoWTimE gonna help him out with that. Cut him down a little. But only losing 3 drones thus far compared to the 8 or 9 in the harassment phase of the game. Well, 5. Still, not as bad. Though, approaching similar numbers. And ShoWTimE does have 50 probes himself. The Forge just started, which I actually think that's a bit of a mistake. I don't think he intended on delaying it so long. Well, there's 7. But, top tier commentary. Thank you. Thank you. I'm here all night and day. I'm pretty sure you can watch it any time. Meanwhile, the Zerglings knocking on the door. The Stalker holding it. And +1 melee attacking Carapace. It's going to be Master. Is this an... Give me an infestation pit. Come on, give me the infest... Give me the infest... Sorry. Sorry. I want this to be an Ultralisk Rush so bad. But Mass Zergling still... Oh, he doesn't have a lair. What? 6 minutes? Alright, so he's gonna have to take a bit of time to give me that infestation pit. Rogue just trying something completely different. We've got the mixed gold bases here, which, thank you for whoever pointed out, they actually have 9 mineral patches. 1/3 of them being gold minerals. So more minerals overall than your average base, and potentially mining faster as well. Templar Archives, which Archon's one of the hardest possible counters to Zerglings. Storm also quite good, but honestly, I'd rate Mass Archon as even more reliable, as Zerglings can potentially dodge away from Storm, though. Some drones just chilling. Mandated work break. A sad recall where they'll expect some of us in the wreckage. One of us in the wreckage, brothers. And then only 1 Stalker. 3 in total. Could have been much worse. Now give me that infestation. Thank you. Thank you. I'm here all night. I already did that bit. That doesn't mean it can't become a bite. But we'll see what kind of fight the Zerglings have, as that's quite a sight. All of them light. Not to be trite, and the Queen's full of spite. You gonna say it, Brenda? Nah. Bitch. Burrow. Are we gonna get... He's not gonna go Swarm Host. I was thinking Ultra Rush. But Infestor's obviously a very helpful part if you're going to go Mass Ling Bane. But just straight up to Hive. And ShoWTimE has shown he takes quite a bit of time to get to the robotics facility in the past. So, obviously Adrenal Gland Zerglings, very strong. But Ultras fill in the gaps where Zerglings can't get the job done. Like against Archons and Templar. Archons, still good, but do not kill Ultras nearly as fast as they can kill swaths of Zerglings. And the Storm is something they can just shrug off because of their sheer amount of bulk, of HP. So, the Storms softening up Zealots and Zerglings alike, but again, well, the Zerglings more hard-pressed to deal with it. We got the Fleet Beacon on the way for ShoWTimE as he's building up. Overall, it's been relatively quiet, though the production has not for either side. 9 minutes of pretty much just poking and prodding the early Adepts and Oracles, but there are 121 Zerglings. And an Ultratus Cavern and Adrenal Gland as Rogue will rush to Ultras in Zerg versus Protoss. But he has the economy for it. He's got 5 bases. Microbial Shroud is on the way. And when your entire army is melee, reducing ranged attack damage in an area does actually seem like a pretty good option. Though the constant struggle is what to actually use the Infestor energy on. Well, I guess the struggle in this case would be having any Infestors at all. 155 Zerglings. But ShoWTimE is similar supply. He's at 180 against 180. He has not been sitting back. And he has the Death Ball. At least the ground-based Death Ball. So, Rogue doesn't have that much more in the bank, if any. Actually is less. So, it's Ling Bane versus Immortal, Archon, Templar, Chargeslaw, with plenty of Stalkers mixed in still. Chitin is plating on the way. Adrenal Glands is like 20 seconds out. I think he wants to wait for that if possible. ShoWTimE, he doesn't want to risk it. But 160 Zerglings. He's just gonna go. Splitting off dozens of Zerglings, but well, the Storm's warding him away, but at some point they run out. Not this point. And another army. Probably the right move here. The Queen's caught off the creep as it's not covering the whole base. The Zergling's getting strung out. Archon's mixed into everything. The charge lots are warped into quite a concave. And, well, 2 more Robos on the way. The Banelings evaporated underneath the Storms. And ShoWTimE is adapting to the Ultras before they even exist. He's got 2 more Robos. He's making the Immortals. Eventually, the army gets cleaned up over to the right side. The left is still struggling to be dislodged. ShoWTimE has 2,000 minerals in the bank, though not that much gas as he warps in 5 more Archons, or merges 5 more. But 3... Oh, the saddest recall. 1 Archon survives. But a mother... What is this? 1 Archon with no shields, an Immortal and a Mothership, and there's no anti-air. But, well... Huh. Rogue's up 50 supply. ShoWTimE warps in another round. Some changelings were body block. He's building a carrier? Just 1 carrier? 3 Immortals at a time. Clearly looking to directly counter. Already a Spire on the way for Rogue. The Immortal! Oh, and the Zerglings get in. And those are +2/2 cracklings here. Adrenal Glands. The Ultra's on the 4th base as he's chewing his way through. And it's starting to get more and more difficult. The natural, the Zerglings overrunning the Immortals before they can target the Ultra. The rest being chased down over to the right flank. The Robos themselves potentially vulnerable. Every Immortal taken out and the Ultras can chew through the rest. Rogue continues streaming through and ShoWTimE has an idea of how to deal with this. But quantity has a quality all its own. There are no Zerglings in front, which means the Immortals are having a field day with the Ultras, but eventually they close the distance. It doesn't matter. They get blasted apart. But the natural, the ultras on top of everything. The Zerglings, there is no wall. ShoWTimE himself being torn apart. But if Rogue is stopped at any point, he's expended so much. The carriers have arrived. The Zerglings take down yet another immortal. ShoWTimE still has 82 probes. The income is almost even here. Active cloaking is available. He can save one of these bases. A lot of these probes are, hold position, kills a few more. The Zerglings keep trickling through like this is direct strike. He needs the cloak. The Ultra just chewing through. 8 more probes dead. The natural, they don't stop. They don't stop coming and they don't stop coming. The Zerg Rush will continue until morale improves, and Protoss morale has been at an all-time low for quite a while. The Ultras in the main, the only Zealots are changelings watching on and maybe even cheering. The cloaking not used on the mothership, and Rogue in one of the most Zerg-like possible fashions. An endless stream of Zerglings and Ultras, and that's it. That's the entire army. Is sending it across the map like it's the Brood War, and claiming it like it's his own. Rogue will claim the series 3 games to 1.
Hell, it's about time.
What a game. Bringing us to our anti-spoiler bonus game, featuring Rogue again and a certain strategy that I wanted to show off, but the entire series was less than 10 minutes, which should tell you something. Wow. Rogue just imposing the Lings and Ultras. Again, ShoWTimE, probably the most book-smart Protoss. He does everything right. But sometimes against the concentrated madness of Rogue, it still fails. The downside is being predictable. Rogue clearly able to manipulate that, and even though ShoWTimE had the right answer, he didn't give his answer in time. So, Rogue with his... The only game he lost was the game that looked like a standard one. The Hydra Ling timing into a Protoss that was building up Storm. Every other game, Rogue was able to kind of twist it into something different. And usually the Zerg adapt more quickly. And speaking of, welcome to Celestial Enclave, where the builds are made up and the ramps don't matter. As Rogue found another worker-only path. In fact, well, I do think this game was played beforehand. But anyways, moving on. Enough about that. The question very much is, does trigger scouting? The worker-only paths intentionally, like the tubes, allowing workers to get into places that otherwise they wouldn't be able to scout. There are 3 drones coming across the map. Did he spot it? No. It is. Well, the drones, I think he'll see the creep. Technically. Okay, we'll go to the trigger cam. Let's see when it gets triggered. There's technically creep on the minimap, but there's no icon there. He's looking for some... Oh, no. Oh, it's already too late. The double take on the creep, because there's no minimap icon. It's just, you can see the creep on the minimap, but until you actually look at it, it's hard to register. And now there are 3 spine crawlers on the way. Rogue, he can't keep getting away with it. Yet here we are. There's nothing to stop a creep tumor. But there's a zealot. But the spines can hit from the low ground. Wait. Is there a spot for them? I don't think there's enough creep here. And he made this forward, I think, so they would have creep. But no, there's not enough. Yeah, he needs the creep. Didn't work it out exactly perfect, but still, I don't think exactly perfect is. That's it. That's it. Just wanted to throw that one in there. To know that you're not safe, even inside your own base. Doors and corners. And worker only pass. That's what they get you. So, check to your left, check to your right. The proxy hatch is behind you. But when you look back quickly, before Rogue kills you, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. And if you got the means of motivation, be also to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I do hear liking and subscribing is still free for now as I undercut my home bit. But thank you to our mule tier patrons, by the way. Big Jaggy, Devendor, Kate, Crazy Mouse, Mario, and Soup. And to everyone. And if you haven't yet checked out this video, it'd be awesome because Jimmy picked it out just for you. So, I mean, he has to get paid somehow. And pride and accomplishment is all we can offer. Otherwise, I hope I made your day at least a little bit better. And thank you for watching. Hope to see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.